It is April 10th, 2022. I mean, I can't make this stuff up by myself. I mean, the humans have been very helpful um, in what they come up with in their peasants and pageantry. Um, there's a um, there's a place in New York that they call Hell's Kitchen for Foot Devils, just so you're aware. I'm in HE double hockey sticks in comparison with where I was, whatever, Jason born. On this calendar system in this like really horrific position. So I'm watching what they've created this morning, and in Hell's Kitchen, they're raising money, research money, for lust, Lust, in Garten terms. Again, they're wearing deep African violet purple, the color purple, which there's been movie references. There's been whatever, I give you a floral bouquet name of a fuzzy flower. And then it goes into Mayor Adams' first 100 days, which, to paraphrase, for parasites as the ghost, G host, as G under, there being some G over, and oversees things, man, like the man, the number 7, that I, whatever. So, as his number 8. So now, here we are categorically. Mayor Adams says it's like he wants to bring swagger back. He also says that it's not like drinking, drinking one way, and I'll put him on so he says it in his own words. It's more like drinking out of a fire hydrant, like all at once coming at you. So I thought that that was interesting. There is in Jack and the giant in this area, the children will agree because they've been telling these nursery rhymes and stories and carrying this one tradition forward in the correct format. The giant says, "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman." Right. Yeah. So now here we are in the fee being the, if I take the F out of the fee, fi, fo, fum, it's EIOUM. Just so we are once again categorically landing on the same page out of the same book and not interpreting things at a dangerous theatrical whatever. The biohazard symbol that it's for me is just that English, a little French, and a little Italian. That's what they've allowed in this version of New York at people much more supra and superior. There's some anterior heart that holds me close in memory, but I do not know. I do not have the physicality part. So that's Stati Uniti, les États-Unis, and United States. But in United States, in this America, North America, that's where they have this jack and this giant and they have the fee, fi, fo, fum is his whatever as he stomps around the clouds, I suppose. And so that's actually in an IO, EO, MO, or MEMO. There's an EIO, UM somewhere. It says it right in the letters from home, planet, or cosmic nursery somewhere, as in on the astroturf of gastroenterology, of where I'm digesting all of this, whatever they call it. I also see some of the Broadway specials. They have this new thing called birthday candles where they age from 17 to 107 on stage in like 90 minutes, I think it is. That's Deborah, I call him Messenger, something like that, I don't know. And then they brought in the Little Prince, which is actually, I did not know it was a French, the women have a very French spoken accent and or intonation, which I did not know. And they have the year on this Little Prince of 1943, which 43 is very significant. It's actually the reversal, which is why one of the characters appears, I would assume, on the stage as a bloom of a different flower, which, whatever. But, again, I don't have money to go see any of these things, but The Little Prince, I saw them from afar, just a little sample. It looks like beautiful the way that their theater company, but I cannot, I don't have a way of transporting myself, nor the get-up outfit. So here we are, and this is what they said this morning on the Fee-Fi-Fo-Fum.
Will begin to clear again. Coming up, my full forecast today, we're going to talk about some warmth rolling back.
See, it says first alert weather, Hell's Kitchen in Manhattan. Just so we're clear, on Channel 2. Hell's Kitchen is in Manhattan. My feet are in Queens. I am where HE double hockey sticks exist.
The tri-state area, and we'll also talk more about why we're here today at Pier 84. Back to you.
Sounds good, Vanessa. Thank you. Happening today, Mayor Eric Adams is marking his 100th day in office. He's faced many challenges, from crime to the pandemic. CBS 2's...
And historically, if I do remember my youth, where I, of course, where I, again, didn't know anybody. I was a youngin', or I was new to the scene, and the Anchor relatives, where it's the Vicky and Ada with Lewis's Italians, whichever, they would bring me to different places, and I never knew who was being introduced, but they share one mother, supposedly, of West Virginia, which is Angelina, which is my angel grandmother. And so, when everything was polite, etiquette, best you can, you don't speak, you let others speak, you speak when spoken to, that kind of thing. That was grooming, as far as I was concerned. But historically, it's not to get into these heated debates and arguments. Again, that is what the man and the men's in the warhouse do. The women, again, polite, nice when you're in company, and that is it. And that is how I have remained. So when I do words on this whatever, I do not like arguing. I do not enjoy challenging and going after. By myself, this has never been something that I enjoy. And so that is why I believe that they gave us alternate ways of communications between the Jack and the Giant, and then the story and the fee fi fo fum. So this way there was not a, I don't know. I mean, one has to be protected by something before they can do bloom and gloom, I would assume.
She's Christina Fan is here live with a look at the...
Then that goes to Dr. Seuss, different cat, different hat.
These last 100 days and what Mayor Adams has planned for the future. Good morning, Christina.
Good morning, Cindy. To say Mayor Eric Adams took office during a difficult time is an understatement. The city is...
It's like a boarding house with borders that have no boundaries. They just walk in a room without knocking. I'm in the middle of something. They don't care. They are just so careless. It is a disgusting world of whatever's been built into this atmosphere and how it is completely disintegrated. To be honest, whoever is working anime and like scripting and sublingual, subliminal, and whatever else while this goes on, not a big fan. But yesterday I also put up about these the feast or the famine of Nomain, Mein, which is M-E, and then it's also Eins, E-I-N-S. There's an example, this is her name here. Like, I'm not a fan, right? Yeah, look at that. There's fan. And there's the face with fan. At the moment, I don't know if it's druidically correct, but it's what's on the... It's a beseechment as far as I'm concerned. And then this is the mayor.
He is still battling COVID. There's...
Again, even just in these two samples of the ecological state of the pond that I'm in New York at the moment, both of the ecological appearances are no mine.
rising gun violence and increasing homelessness. While many of those metrics have not yet improved, the mayor says
That's a new word for the news, metrics. I mean, I use it all the time, but that's interesting.
He's laid down the foundation for change.
During one of his first public
What kind of change exactly? Are we going back to a city with no daddy issues? Or, I mean, is there like some way to just, how do you hold steady and keep safety and public health standards and explain what some of the other evil in the world has created and started to act upon, that has created an even more dangerous situation for many reasons, one being within the lust garden elsewhere and sending lustful problems throughout people's Eden, let's call it, or cosmic nursery, which used to be safe to have children. They could have a nice life, they could have nice things, they could get nice places without having to be lustful. But yet now it feels that barely exists.
Events as mayor, Eric Adams declared he wanted to bring swagger back to New York City. He certainly dresses the part and has no shortage of confidence. When CBS 2 political reporter Marsha Kramer asked him how his life's changed since he took the oath of office on January.
Now this I find interesting because this looks very oceanic, state of Oceania. And this looks like the Long Island swatch of cloth that they put on a stick when I was there, so I would have at least a symbol until whatever, that I knew how to orient myself in a conversation or wherever. What's interesting is just above her head, the light's there, but they'll change their camera angle because I've seen this before. And there's family estate members and family estate paintings still hanging, even though they've removed the statue of Thomas Jefferson out of City Hall, which I have not forgotten about. But there is a painting portrait still on the wall of the family members, for which rock wall and papers still exist.
First, he said it wasn't the type of problem, but the number.
The volume is a lot. Every day, all day. No more drinking out of a garden hose or drinking out of a fire hose.
I think that is fantastic. So finally, they're getting feedback as to the disaster that was created by all this false king and putting a false king on the calendar in someone else's garden. I think that it's just wonderful that people are finally speaking up. It may not be what they say, might be coming from the wrong filter, because they might have been told that they actually won some prize in Enterprise, and they actually were building something that doesn't exist. But at least they're speaking in some tongue. So fee, fi, fo, fum has a way of gauging just how mentally intrusive this clinical trial with all this research that was already known outcome and summation before the plan went into effect. I mean, cosmically, there's nothing that's unknown. There's nothing that hasn't been surmised already. It's in action with these exponential pieces moving around the field that then it becomes some form of entanglement in quantum quirk, when to be concerned, when not to be concerned, who's the boson, who's the whatever. In like a Hadron collider. I call it a kaleidoscope because the glass is broken, but collider.
Day so far, announcing a program to create jobs for foster children.
Whoa, foster children. Now here's the question. What are we fostering? Because it's in fee, fi, fo. Fo being F-O. Usually it's F-O-E. Because the E and the O are backwards. Just curious on foster, because S-T-E-R usually means sterling's involved. I don't know if you've lost sight or if that's been an addressable label to put on someone who's acting as sterling in this pantomime for sterling silver. And then the messenger is speaking of foster and asking for foster in billing and so on and so forth. and legs in legislation, but to put something else in action. But the problem really lies within on the receivership of World Bank and so on and so forth and other swatches of cloth. Are they really receiving the correct message? Because now all the actors have changed in some Apple turnover. So when the messenger asks using Jack and the Giant's script, it now becomes a problem because now you're growing the festering problem with the fee, F-E-E, and then the fostering of future problems being the foe, F-O-E, and then with the sterling silver of they don't want to pay. Right, yeah, that's been an ongoing thread, I think, throughout time and history with tenant and residency issues. And this fountain of youth in Futurama that just doesn't ever seem to get balanced in ratios and rationale for some reason. So, the fee, so he's come up with a foster. Now, is that a foe? Why are we investing in future faux plans? Why are we purposely breaking the city apart and allowing a conducive environment for an Apple turnover? I mean, it needs now, based on what I see on this televised event, it's been turned over in some theater mess with the pantomime and the actors into a very, what looks like dirty set of examples. And now it has to be returned back to rock, paper, scissors cleanliness because there is a North Face and there is still a EU rope. And there are others that know. I'm not the only one that knows these things. And I'm not the only one that's concerned. It's just some of us, we like being geopolite and quiet and ladylike, even though it might not seem like it. And even though our reputation might precede us as more of a get it kind of done, bulldog kind of a... Sometimes these are not appropriate terms. Like, I mean, in a fan club, again, which fan? Because I definitely have a very specific North Face, different than the labeled one that is confusing on two levels because it looks geisha, but yet it has a name almost with Christ in it, which it's not, and then it's got a fan after it. So, I mean, like, but it's not a PH fan, because I know that that's a big thing in, like, the Phillips area of whatever congregation. I mean, I still have an R here and an H. That's your blood type, which I am crystal clear. I am not positive. I am still a negative. And then, which means that I am at a different, even with my eye spine, I am a different kind of walking, talking, whatever. And here we are.
His worst day, when police officers Jason Rivera and Wilbert
Oh, so his best day was he set forth a foster plan. I just want to make sure that foster plan is really reviewed, but not by like locals and not like just by ad hoc Kathy Council in an honorable way. Because again, she's surrounded as well as is the president at the moment by a lot of years of unannounced events and writings that the children do on Earth. I mean, they are so creative how they just write themselves free passes. I mean, like, but it's the honoring those that becomes then an issue in real world. So I don't know how to get those things reviewed by like the Fee Fi Fo Fum committee in an EIOUM kind of a way of IOEOMEMO.
Were killed, and he had to face their families at the hospital.
It was just so painful. And I remember walking into the room and watching the faces, and sometimes pain reaches an intensity point, then it starts to dissipate. In that hospital, it never dissipated. It just stayed at that level of pain, and it was hard. It was hard.
On day one, Eric Adams pledged to, in his words, get stuff done. So far, that includes putting more cops in the subway, establishing neighborhood safety teams to get guns off the street, a promise to improve safety at 1,000 traffic intersections, and a blueprint for economic recovery. He also ran into a buzzsaw of criticism when, as part of that economic recovery, he decided to...
And this whole Roman idea of the Colosseum and these grandstands and this big voice and acting as one really becomes a concern at times, depending again on ratios ration and, for me at the moment, the employment status of so many who may be writing a story that might not jive with what Hive actually needs in a realism way at actions of pantomime in motion.
The vaccine mandate for sports and entertainment figures like Kyrie Irving. Public employees were furious because over 1,400 lost their jobs because they would not get vaccinated.
Again, that's kind of what happens when you put entertainers and those are entertainers that like challenge and really love the hunt and there is a method to the madness to keep it on a satiable whatever.
Thousands more could lose their appeals. When asked if he would rehire those...
Oh, and here we are. So I don't know what this room is called because I've never been invited to City Hall. I've never been entertained within its walls, never been interviewed. I know nothing about the building itself, know nothing about the area. I really know nothing about the city other than what they're presenting now because, again, they've just left me here. They moved me once to Long Island but it was the same thing. It was like day trips allowed out of the footpath around the residence, but that's it. But here we are on the wall. And here are the flags. And then here is the person. Just a person. Who is in charge of a lot while here. And a lot of other things are going on in the world just outside. He's inside Big Apple, inside the Empire State, which is dubbed or doubled over with New York. And I don't know if that causes undue friction or unforeseen circumstances. I don't know if everybody's keeping an eye on the entire circuit, circus, circa, and what is going on in reality. But I didn't paint this portrait. I am just documenting, so it is properly looked after in whatever that process is.
Those who lost their jobs, especially cops, firefighters, and emergency medical personnel, the answer was a firm no. He says they just have to get the vaccine.
If you love the job, you're not going to allow a COVID shot to get in the way.
And Mayor Adams is already busy planning for his next 100 days.
Sounds like taking away city workers' rights in a very like an underhanded kind of way. I mean, if I don't want to take your biologically engineered products, if I don't want to take radiological services, why am I being misinformed and miseducated in some money-making schematic to feed people that aren't my own? This, again, gets really, like, hairy. Here's a real life in Hell's Kitchen. Real life reporter, real life man affected with pancreatic cancer. Once they give you these diseases with whatever the radiological issues are in the area, then it's like they almost force you to your knees to go to these research facilities and beg them to study you in some really weird, twisted, disgusting format, especially considering that from what I've seen, there's a whole array of things that aren't there's a lot of things that have come over. And I don't know what the draw was with medicine services and this whole disgusting tourism, but it's really frightening.
I've already had the pleasure of meeting.
Oh, and there is something called Resort World. They put a commercial up. It's R-E and then the word sort, S-O-R-T. So like in Fool's Gold, I'm just curious, when you mine or you pan for gold, it's like sorting out the rocks from the golden chips that then they sell in whatever to make money. Why was there any investing in resorting the world and the children of Earth? It seems like a dangerous plan at Jack and the Giant, considering the real other issues that are going on at the moment. And with then leads to cooperation failure.
We have, yes, joining me right here is Mr. Kelly Harris. He has a pancreatic cancer. We can't call you a survivor just yet, but we hope to do that in a few years. And Dr. Elliot Newman, he is with the Northwell Health Cancer Institute at Lenox Health Hospital.
I'm not necessarily, I'm on the fence with how I feel about this level of human. I get they think they're doing God's work. They're there on the front lines. My whole point is they're just like a catch basin that needs to positively feedback loop in with whatever management is, so this way we take care of the problem in this really dangerous torsion system. It's like a super weather pattern at this point. But what I'm not okay with is the amount of staff from other known abuse of their own system elsewhere flying to New York and just relocating and flying under the radar as if it's no big thing and nobody taking care of that. I've heard that they've been in hospitals, they take all sorts of equipment home, like rather than buying Band-Aids at the store, they'll take them from the hospitals. And it's not a perk. There's a lot of abuse of the system at a lot of different levels. And it's an ongoing problem. Now this is real life, interesting local. This is New Jersey state local though. But I do have this at times, not this bad luckily, where they just throw trash out on the streets and then it gets flattened. They have it in their dead ends, tires, all sorts of stuff, which is...
Trash bags like these are littered all over. Mayor Andre Saya is fed up.
We're here standing as a united front to let everyone know that Patterson is not a dumping ground.
The city has plenty of work to do. Some 3,200 tons of illegal trash were cleaned up last year alone in Patterson, most of it dumped at dead-end roads.
Could this be a geopolite story? It might. If the professor and the teacher was assigned properly.
Roads like this one, or left in public parks. Everything from construction materials to furniture and tires, which are a serious health concern.
They're a good threat for mosquitoes, their breeding grounds, and those are one of the things we try to get up the fastest.
To help catch those illegally dumping, the city has placed 35 motion sensor cameras and license plate readers all over the city in areas that are popular spots for dumping. One of the new cameras showed this man driving a U-Haul truck allegedly dumping construction materials. The cameras have already helped catch 12 illegal dumpers over the last month. And most are coming from outside the city.
It's a big threat to how our city looks and to the quality of life here in Patterson.
Now the question is, if you are renting from a landlord who tells you he has another building and he already pays for waste management, and he said, how many bags is it you can drop something off, and you do, it's not then illegal, is it? Because the landlord who already pays for waste management service told you could go do that. I mean, again, just following the directions of the man that was in charge of the building and the leasing in whatever we were doing.
The city of Patterson has also increased fines for illegal dumping from $500 to a maximum of $10,000 to deter offenders. The city of Patterson spends more than $50,000 a year to clean up and dispose of all that trash. Officials say the increased fines for dumping will cover the cost of the new cameras. In Patterson, New Jersey, Nick Calloway, CBS 2 News.
8:27, another check on our top stories still ahead. Plus,
And now, here is the
Daniel Craig and
we begin this morning's Broadway and Beyond with a new show inspired by a beloved children's book. The Little Prince will have its opening night Monday with aerial acrobatics. The international cast and creative team tells CBS 2's Jenna DeAngelis it's a magical journey.
It's time to take flight and enter the universe of The Little Prince.
Having a little prince of my own, in fact I have 4, but 2 that really qualify genetically. I am really concerned about this because this is a sign that their future wives were not planned for properly, which means that there's dereliction prior to my arrival coming in. And that's in pantomime, in a geopolite way of alerting the awoke or awake or functioning parts of the system before it becomes really dangerous. But I don't know, again, like the gentleman said yesterday, the one gentleman who is a playwright actually stood there and handed artwork to Bill Maher. That is a very big symbolic gesture in cosmic nursery, when like the world stands still kind of a thing. I don't know if I made it that pronounced. It was an HBO special. Linda and Lou taped it. I watched it, and I was impressed by the Josh chatter of the pied de fil of the Foot Devils. In their spoken way of trying to explain to each other the insanity of Manhattan at the moment, or New York at the moment, and then trying to even decipher for themselves weekly in upkeep to try to keep the message somewhere within a range of acceptability.
He finds a rose that is blossoming, and he just falls in love with her, and he's trying.
I don't know. I don't know if there's falling in love. Again, that might be him in this moment, but it is not looking like love is in full bloom. It looks more gloom and doom. It's bloom, gloom, doom at this 1943 remake in 2022, and this being the blooming rose for the little prince that look this way, because now there is very few choices in the farmer's market or the supermarché. I have no idea if they've had better luck elsewhere, but the produce here is very same in my life frame. It's almost nil, or it's whatever.
Traveling in the universe, trying to find a way to protect her.
While on his journey, he encounters different people and characters, learning many life lessons.
Oh, look, there's a checkered past, just like what I've encountered. And this does remind me of the cosmic space again. When the world stands still, these things, and Earth is back here. I mean, it's easier to find like-minded to explain in a geopolite way. Even though some might disagree, I'm in Queens. It's been my life frame for comparison to these pieces of symbolic gesture and pantomime. They're just facts. They don't feel like bene or bien, but, I mean, n'est-ce pas? Somebody has to tell the nest father.
From each character, there's a symbol, there's a message, so you can learn.
Lionel Zellikas is the Little Prince.
It's definitely an honor, since it's one of the main books of the 20th century.
The show is inspired by the best-selling...
In this area, in Long Island where I was being held, and in Queens where I have been held, it was not considered a main book. My Italian relatives, the Northern Italians, with the West Virginia mother, they presented a video catalog of The Little Prince with Gene Wilder. Only time, and I can't even recall the movie because of what in the last 4 decades, the way the system and the interaction between my body and the atmosphere, the cosmic part of the egg, the way that they are interacting has been defiled and has been almost turned into some punishment of some sort, which I can't quite figure out who was involved in that.
Classic children's book written by French author Antoine de Saint-Exupéry.
For us, very meaningful to be in Broadway, to be in New York, where my uncle wrote the book 8 years ago.
Since getting published in 1943, it's become...
See? 1943.
Become one of the most translated books of all time, spanning generations and inspiring readers regardless of language, country, or culture.
We just know that it's impact a lot in the house.
The Little Prince.
It sounds like there's something that everybody could take away from seeing it.
Exactly, totally. And all ages.
Chris Maroon is co-director alongside director Anne Tournay, who is also its choreographer, bringing the book to life on stage through dance, acrobatics, narration, and vivid visuals.
To give emotion, as I received the emotion of the book from my mother and I wanted to bring back to the audience.
Both say when creating the show, they never imagined they'd make it to Broadway.
Incredible. Let's say incroyable in French.
Echoed by members of the cast, especially these two who grew up in New York.
Walking in the theater district and finally like walking to your own stage where you got your own nameplate, dream come true.
They've made dreams come true. I was not given the same opportunity. Held in a room. They call it escuela. I don't know in French, but it's escuela is in weather. It's a squall. It's just a squall waiting to happen, especially at Geopolite and the proper first German with a U.
Folks who have stayed home for so long, it gives a chance to really travel, metaphorically, literally.
And after the pandemic shut down shows, being able to bring a new one to...
And this is the other one with birthday candles. Having to stay in one place from 17 to 107. It doesn't sound like something, especially when everything has been stripped from your person. Everything of enjoyment, anyway. I don't think that that sounds humane, but yet it's being done.
Slowly finds her place in the world.
And here, yesterday they did something with the green jacket. I just learned about these things called masters. I mean, they had a Tiger Woods, but it was Tiger Woods centric, so I just tuned it out. But yesterday they actually brought in the golf course, like, history in the making before it became Tiger Woods centric in New York. And so I actually listened to it. Now I hear at Lust Garden this morning, the African violets in bloom of gloom and doom, with pancreatic cancer. They're raising money for research. And again, I don't want to take away their ability to fund money for research, but what are they researching? There are things that are known. Why isn't it just going to fund the cure?
Degree days, or with an opportunity for some wet weather as well. Then Friday, it's a crisp breeze and 68 for the Mets home. And right now,